Good morning, everyone. Still partly morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you all to the final meeting of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources for the 2023-2024 session. Members who are joining us virtually, please do be sure to keep your video on so that we know we have a quorum, and please also be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize background noise, and please remember that the chat feature is only to be used for technical assistance from our broadcast and production services staff. And with that, we would love to ask the Secretary to please call roll.
Senator Goycochea.
Here.
Senator Scheibel.
Here.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Here.
Assemblyman DeLong.
Present.
Assemblyman Gurr.
Here.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Here.
Chair Pazina.
Present, and thank you so much. Well, it's wonderful to see everyone today and to have most of us all together in one room. And with that, today's meeting is going to be the committee's work session where we'll be considering which bills to bring forward to the next session. As usual, though, before we begin, we do have a few housekeeping announcements. The committee is a paperless committee, meaning that all the materials are provided electronically. That means that from time to time, committee members will be reviewing meeting materials on their laptops, so please don't take this as a sign of inattention. Anyone who'd like to receive electronic notification of and access to the committee's agendas, meetings, and final report may do so by signing up on the Nevada Legislature's website. Second, if you wish to testify in person, please sign in at the table by the door and leave a business card. When testifying in person, please remember to turn the microphone on to speak and off when finished, because we do have others listening to the meeting online. Also, when you get up to speak, we ask that you say and spell your name so that we make sure that it's recorded correctly in the notes. And third, during the interim, meetings typically do have two opportunities for that public comment, once at the beginning and once at the end of the meeting. Members of the public may provide public comment in different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. For anyone wishing to call in for public comment, please dial 888-475-4499, and when prompted to provide the meeting ID, please enter 869-7808-5045 and then press the pound sign. Broadcast and production services staff will indicate to you when it's your turn to speak. We ask that public comment made in person or by phone be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone interested in speaking may be accommodated and to ensure that we can get through the entire agenda in a timely fashion. Speakers are urged to avoid repetition or comments that may be made by previous speakers. If you'd like to provide written comment, please do so by email before, during, or after the meeting, and that may be submitted to nrinterim@lcb.state.mv.us. Or they may be provided by mail to the Research Division at 401 South Carson Street, Carson City, Nevada, 89701. Or if you'd prefer to fax them, they may be faxed to 775-684-6400. So there are many, many options to provide those public comments. And with that said, we're going to move into item 2 on our agenda. Let's start our first public comment session for today. If there's anyone wishing to speak in either Las Vegas or Carson City, please do approach the table now. I will remind you that during work sessions, since we won't have support or opposition testimony, this is a great chance to share your thoughts on the bills being work sessioned, and I thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kyle Davis, today on behalf of the Interwest Energy Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment this morning. I am here to discuss recommendation B6 from the Public Lands Committee recommendations. This was considered earlier this morning, and a version of it was recommended for your full committee. I did submit a letter on behalf of Interwest to this committee in anticipation that the resolution could move forward, which it has, but the committee did provide guidance to continue to work on that language, which we certainly do appreciate. And I just wanted to clarify, did submit that letter based on the original draft that was in the work session, but based upon the committee's discussion and my conversations with committee members, we would appreciate the opportunity and are are happy to work with the committee and other stakeholders to help craft something that I think would work for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Olivia Tanager. I'm the director of the Sierra Club's Toyabe chapter. The Toyabe chapter represents 40,000 members and supporters across our great state. We're thrilled to talk about transit to trails with this committee and look forward to answering any questions you may have. As I've previously noted, we've chatted with both RTCs in our great state, as well as land management agencies and other stakeholders. We'll continue to connect with stakeholders leading into the 2025 session. So far, we have not received any concern or opposition. This proposal is simply for a commission of relevant stakeholders to identify high-priority trailheads for transit and to identify sources of funding for expanding transit. We do not want to strain our existing transportation resources and cause problems for folks using transit to commute or run errands. Our organization strives to get people outside to enjoy, explore, and protect our public lands. And as such, I know kids and people in Reno who have never been up to Lake Tahoe or up Mount Rose Highway, and similarly folks who live in southern Nevada who've never been out to Red Rock or Mount Charleston. And in talking with some different folks, we've learned that people going up Mount Rose Highway and going up Mount Charleston in the winter who are not adequately prepared causes a strain on law enforcement resources, and therefore we support transit to trails as a public safety issue as well. This issue is also personal to me. When I first moved to Nevada, my husband got in a serious car accident and was in the hospital for a little while. A few weeks later, our remaining car broke down and I was not able to get outside and recreate. It impacted my mental health by not being able to exercise outside or connect with nature. We also support many of the other items you'll be discussing today, including the Healthy Soils Bill, the letter supporting the Ash Meadows mineral withdrawal, Water for Wildlife, water rights retirement, and the Wildlife Crossings funding. So thank you for these important discussions, and we look forward to working with you throughout the remainder of this interim and in the next session.
Thank you so much. I also enjoyed hearing the solicitation proposal for the transit to trails. Thank you. All right, next up.
Good morning, Chair Pazina, members of the committee. For the record, Cadence Matievich, Government Affairs Liaison for Washoe County. Wanted to come before you today to voice our support for an item that will be coming from your Public Lands Subcommittee, and that is the letter to our federal government on the RS 2477 rights-of-way. In September of 2023, the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution R23-118, expressing to Congress and to the Executive Department the importance of creating and supporting an administrative adjudication process for titling of these historic county rights-of-way. This is an important issue to counties, and doing so will allow us to access funding to help maintain and repair these important pathways, roadways in our communities. And so we appreciate the state considering lending your voice to that call for action to our federal government as well. And if I may, Madam Chair, just quickly, I want to, on behalf of Washoe County, and I think I speak for other local governments, just express to Senator Goycochea our sincere thanks for your decades of advocacy. You've been our champion for local government in this body, and we'll miss you very much, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, and I feel very certain that everyone up here and in this room agrees with you.
Chair Pazina and members of the Interim Committee on Natural Resources, my name is Jana Moan, that's Jainamoan, and I'm the External Affairs Director for the Nature Conservancy in Nevada. We support several of the recommendations in the work session document. First, we were pleased to see the Smart from the Start resolution move forward from the Public Lands Subcommittee. We encourage your passage of that. We support item 3, which will uplift regenerative agriculture practices and help producers by creating a structure and mechanism for improving soil health in Nevada. We support recommendation 4 for the committee to send a letter to the U.S. Department of Interior urging an administrative withdrawal of public lands in Amargosa Valley. This important action would demonstrate support for protecting the water resources that feed the Ash Meadows National Wildlife Refuge, which is an environmental, cultural, and community treasure that is like no other on this planet. We support item 5 to create a transit to trails task force. This effort would enhance equitable access for people of varying economic levels to visit and experience Nevada's beautiful parks and trails, and expanding these opportunities for all people not only improves public health, but such a program can alleviate vehicle congestion at our crowded trails. We very much appreciate Senator Goycochea and Senator Pezzina proposing item 9 on the agenda. This would be to create the Nevada Water Conservation and Recreation Program, consisting of the Nevada Water Buyback Initiative and a grant program to establish an advisory committee for the initiative. We recommend that at least $275,000 be attached to the bill to cover staff time and travel for establishing regulations for the program and for staffing the advisory committee. Also in the water category, we support item 6 regarding extensions of time for converting agricultural water rights to wildlife purposes or to improve water quality. This change would provide a temporary means to conserve water as we look for solutions that permanently reduce consumptive use that work for both people and nature. We support item 10 regarding support for the Nevada Shared Stewardship Agreement and item 11 to allow for Nevada Division of Forestry to enter into fire compacts. In the face of increasing wildfire threat, it is imperative that we maintain wildfire readiness and response tools and communications.
We are at 2 minutes, so if you close us out, thank you.
To close out, we support item 12 to appropriate $5 million to fund the wildlife crossings, and we truly appreciate your support and for hearing our comment. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair Pezzina and members of the committee. My name is Peter Stanton, and I lead the Walker Basin Conservancy in our efforts to save Walker Lake and secure a resilient water supply for our region's communities. This morning, I'd like to express my support for 2 bill draft requests. The first, to establish a groundwater retirement program under state statute, and the second, to extend the period for temporary permits to increase in-stream flows for wildlife benefit. Over the last year, the Conservancy's worked with local farmers and the state to develop a pilot program for water rights retirement. Sellers came forward in our region expressing interest in retiring approximately 10 times as much water as there was funding available. These initial results demonstrate substantial interest in retiring water rights, enough to make a long-term positive impact for agriculture in our industry and on quality of life in our region and quality of life indicators. Last week, we successfully completed the first transaction in our region and filed relinquishment paperwork with the state to conserve 500 acre-feet of groundwater in perpetuity. In these transactions, we're also leveraging federal funding, stretching the state's investment, and expecting about a 2-to-1 federal match on these transactions. In our region, declining groundwater tables have taken domestic wells offline and led to decreasing flows of the Walker River. Stopping groundwater decline is vital to providing sustainable water supply for future generations of Nevadans, and I commend the committee for its foresight in requesting this bill draft. I'd also like to voice our support for item E6, a bill draft to extend the time limit for temporary conversion of agricultural water rights to in-stream benefit for wildlife purposes. The future of Walker Lake and the Walker River depend on Nevada statutes supporting in-stream flow enhancement. Extending the time period for temporary conversions will provide more flexible management tools for our region while mitigating administrative burdens in the change application process. Thank you for your consideration of both of these bill draft requests today.
Good morning, Chair Pezzina and members of the committee. My name is Mason Vail, M-A-S-O-N-V-O-E-H-L. I'm Executive Director of Amargosa Conservancy. We're a nonprofit working toward a sustainable future for the Amargosa River here in Nevada and in California. I want to thank the committee for considering, as part of today's meeting, item C4 concerning an important issue affecting the Amargosa River, the communities of the Amargosa Valley, and the protected landscapes of Ash Meadows National Wildlife Refuge and Death Valley National Park. This is an extraordinary landscape known and beloved around the world for its scenic beauty, its biodiversity, and its storied past. And sadly, it's also a landscape facing extraordinary threats to its future. Though mining is an important cornerstone of Nevada's economy, mining in the Amargosa Valley poses a direct threat to precious groundwater resources depended upon by the Timbisha-Shoshone tribe, the community of Amargosa Valley, and exceptionally rare wildlife species. In one of the planet's hottest and driest deserts, there's just nothing more valuable than water. We've come before this committee because our coalition sees an opportunity to enhance safeguards for this special corner of Nevada through placing a temporary pause on new mining claiming on approximately 276,000 acres of public land in the Amargosa Valley. And this action has robust and diverse support from the Timbisha-Shoshone tribe, local governments, Nye County, Senators Cortez Masto and Rosen, and Representatives Horsford, Lee, and Titus. A letter of support from this committee would be meaningful and an impactful action in demonstrating Nevada's commitments to sticking up for water conservation, for rural communities, and for wildlife that are a part of our fabric of our state's identity. Opportunities like this that are authentically bipartisan and community-driven are something of a rarity in our modern era, and so we sincerely hope that this committee will join us in securing these needed safeguards and giving the Amargosa Valley a fighting chance at a bright and sustainable future. Thank you, and I'll look forward to addressing questions or concerns at the appropriate time.
For the record, Ed James with the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District, and we're here to express our support for the Healthy Soils Initiative. For the past 3 years, the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy Districts have been working with our partners, looking at the benefits of healthy soils to the farming community. We have found that not only does healthy soils improve production for the farmers, but it also enhances the water holding capacity of the soil and also dealing with water quality improvements. This is something that we feel is real important. We've been actually working with several different ranches. We have one in Churchill County, one that's with Joe Frey. We've also been working with the Break a Heart Ranch and also with the Nature Conservancy in Douglas County to look at using and enhancing some pilot projects on healthy soils and seeing how this would improve, again, soil moisture, crops, and also improve water quality. So we hope you will support this initiative. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Hatter, Johnhadder. I'm the Director of Great Basin Resource Watch. Appreciate this opportunity for public comment. Going to shift gears a little bit on you. At the last committee meeting, there was a lot of discussion regarding lithium mining. And we cannot ignore the heavy use of water by mining operations, including existing and proposed lithium mines here in Nevada. There was also a lot of heralding of a process called direct lithium extraction, called DLE, and as a softer mining path. I recommend caution here. The DLE process is actually a suite of 7 different kinds of methods, 5 of which still use an evaporation component to them. So there is still a lot of limited availability, public availability as to about these various methods and their ecological environmental footprint. For example, a recent article that was published last year called The Environmental Impact of Direct Lithium Extraction from Brines, published in Nature Reviews, Nature and Earth, March 2023, discussed the potential freshwater use of this process compared to others. So according to the article, brine evaporation operations in South America, and I hope I get these pronunciations right, Salar de la Quema and Salar de Orz, which are similar to our Silver Peak operation here in Nevada, use roughly 5,940 and 13,200 gallons of water for every ton of lithium carbonate equivalent. That's the sort of terminology of a trade used. The article went on to talk about an existing, one of the few actual DLE operations that is in existence is in Salar de Hombre Muerto, uses about 18,700 gallons of water per lithium carbonate extract. So more, actually uses more water than existing. And in the article, the article goes on further, reviews 57 reports on this method.
Mr. Hatter, we are at 2 minutes.
Oh,
so if
really?
you can, yeah, I know,
That was
time goes
fast.
very, very fast. I agree. So if you can just close it out for us.
I'll wrap
Thank
up
you.
real
we will
quick.
have one more public comment.
Oh, right. I'll wrap up real quick to say that I'm not discouraging this method. I'm just wanting caution here. It can be very water intensive, and there's still a lot to be known about it, and that we be mindful and careful to weigh the consequences of various mining methods in the setting where they are proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would remind anyone whose minutes go over 2 minutes, you're also welcome to submit those to the public record as well. And with that,
I will be under 2 minutes, please. Thank you. Madam Chairwoman and members, my name is Doug Martin, Martin. I am the president of the Nevada Association of Conservation Districts, and I'm here today to encourage you to support our initiative for soil health initiative in the state of Nevada. We have the authority under Nevada Revised Statutes 548 to create such initiative, and this is an initiative that will open up a lot of avenues of funding in the areas of research, education, and implementation of best soil management practices. It is a non-regulatory, voluntary initiative to work with farmers and ranchers in the areas of soil health. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I believe we have public comment in Las Vegas as well. So let's head down south and hear that public comment.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Tracy Bauer. I'm the Director of External Affairs at the Desert Research Institute. I want to echo the comments too about Senator Goa-Kachia and just thank him for his leadership. He's been a champion for DRI and we sincerely appreciate that. I'm also here today in support of the recommendation on your work session E7 for DRI's cloud seeding program. DRI is a nonprofit research institute that includes more than 600 scientists who are world-renowned experts in their field, including in the area of cloud physics. Cloud seeding is a scientifically proven method that allows DRI to elicit additional precipitation from winter storms. We can generate about 10% more precipitation from a winter storm when we seed those clouds during the winter time. DRI is a world-renowned expert in the area of cloud seeding, and again, it's practiced very widely in the West. The state funded a cloud seeding program for a number of decades. That funding went away during the Great Recession, and we thank Senator Goa-Kachia for his leadership in bringing that back with SB 99 in the 2023 session. We appreciate you considering continuing that funding in the 2025 session, and we support the request. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not seeing any further comment in Carson City or Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anyone on the phones?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 565, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, Chair Pazina and members of the Joint Interim Natural Resources Committee. My name is Sheila Bray, spelled S-H-E-I-L-A-B-R-A-Y, with the University of Nevada, Reno. I too want to share my thoughts and thank you to Senator Goa-Kachia on behalf of UNR for all of your support throughout the many years of your service in the legislature. Thank you. I also call in today to voice our support of 2 of the items on your recommendation list. The first is number 2, the Home Feeds Nevada program, the urging of a letter to support this program. We have seen through our Nevada Wolfpack meats area has really been able to take advantage of this program and to provide opportunities for producers as well as our meat harvesting facility based in Reno to produce meat protein for Northern Nevada. We're completely in support of the continuation of this and the impact it's had on our state. Additionally, we're also in support of the Healthy Soils, number 3, that's on your list today. We were in support of this similar bill that was brought forth in the 2023 legislative session, and we're glad to see that it's made a return. As many of you know, we're home to the only agriculture college in the state, and we have a number of researchers and educators that are invested in the sustainability of our land, including soil-based research. We look forward to working with this committee and other stakeholders throughout sessions on this and other things that come up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bray. Do we have anyone else broadcast on the lines?
Thank you, Chair. You have no more callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all of the very kind comments for Senator Goa-Kachia as well. I think by the end of today, we might inspire some blushing over there from the amazing job he's done through 22 years here in the legislature, moving forward phenomenal policy. So with that, let's see no more public comment. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, approval of the minutes of the meetings of April 5th, May 10th, and June 4th. committee members. You should have all received the minutes and had time to review them. Are there any questions or concerns from the committee? Okay. Would everyone be all right with approving the minutes from these meetings in one motion rather than separating them out? Okay, great. I'm seeing head nods and thumbs up. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, May 10th, and June 4th of '24?
So moved.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much, Senator Scheibel. Are there any comments or questions on the motion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes. And that very quickly moved us out of item 3 and into item 4 on the agenda, which will bring us to our work session. Members, the committee's work session document is posted on the committee's meeting page, and it contains a list of the proposed recommendations relating to various matters in the purview of our committee. The Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources is allotted 14 bill draft requests, at least 4 of which must be related to public lands. I will share at this time that the chair of the Subcommittee on Public Lands, Chair Scheibel, and I did have a discussion prior to this committee meeting to determine that 6 bill drafts could come forth from the subcommittee and 8 could come forth from the Natural Resources Committee, which would lead us to 14. When you look at the additional letters, which do not constitute BDRs, that means that everything that was passed by the subcommittee this morning could pass through here today without taking away any of the bills that were presented online on the legislature's website and to the committee. So I did want to share that. So nothing needs to die as a result of quantity of bill numbers. The Subcommittee on Public Lands met earlier this morning and voted on which items to bring forward to the committee as a whole to consider. And the subcommittee's work session document is available on the subcommittee's webpage. I hope everyone's had a chance to review. As a reminder, during the work session, we typically do not take testimony unless committee members have questions and the need arises to call on certain people to clarify those specific questions. I'd also like to remind the committee that voting for these proposed recommendations for bill drafts does not constitute your support or vote in favor of a policy come session. There will obviously be a lot of discussion when those bill drafts come to life into legislation at that time. That said, I'd like at this point for Mr. Stinisbeck to walk us through the committee's work session document, beginning with a compilation of the items brought forward from the Subcommittee of Public Lands. Mr. Stinisbeck, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinisbeck with the Research Division of the LCB. As a reminder, as nonpartisan Senate staff, I cannot advocate for or against any measure comes before this body. At the pleasure of the Chair, I'll walk through the work session document. This is a reminder that Chair and staff of the committee have prepared this document to assist the committee in determining which legislative measure it will request for the 2025 session of the Nevada Legislature, as well as other actions the committee may endorse. The work session document contains a summary of recommendations presented during public hearings through communication with individual committee members or through correspondence submitted to the committee members or staff. The members of the committee do not necessarily support or oppose the recommendations in the work session document, and staff has compiled and organized the proposals so the committee members can review them and decide whether they want to accept, reject, modify, or take no action on the recommendation. The Chair went through a number of legislative measures that are allocated to the Joint Standing Committee on Natural Resources. And so with that, the first section on the work session document pertains to Subcommittee on Public Lands. As the Chair mentioned, the subcommittee made these recommendations earlier today. And I will now go through the ones that were recommended and see if how the Chair wants to proceed with those. So the first set of recommendations were propose a resolution on land use planning to encourage local-led efforts, coordination between federal, state, and local government, and multiple use of public lands while providing for a sustainability of these lands economically, socially, and environmentally. This recommendation was passed unanimously, as well as the next one, which was the proposed resolution declaring smart from the start soil development as the state policy for Nevada. There were with the possibility to smooth the language a little bit there. The next two sets of recommendations were letters. The first was to send a letter to Congress expressing support for congressional action to provide clarity on protocols to address the RS 2477 rights of way. The next is a letter to the BLM expressing support for the Nevada greater sage-grouse conservation plan and its conservation credit system in managing greater sage-grouse in Nevada. The next sets of recommendations from the subcommittee are related to water. And the first of those is to propose legislation that revises various provisions of water law that would encourage water conservation. This includes, but is not limited to, revising NRS 533.024 to include encouragement of the efficient use of water as a matter of state policy, add language to NRS related to filing conservation plans with the state engineer, revising NRS 533.0241 to require the state engineer to treat water conservation under a conservation plan as appropriate water, and excluding water conservation under a conservation plan from the abandonment provision of NRS 533.060 and 534.090. This was the only recommendation, was not unanimous from the subcommittee. The next recommendation pertaining to water is to propose legislation to remove the minimum charge and establish a maximum charge for a special assessment levied upon certain designated basins where groundwater use is predominantly for agricultural purposes, limit the use of the special assessment to activities that are directly related to the groundwater basin, and require annual reporting on expenditures and activities funded by the special assessment. In addition to that, the subcommittee passed to add to that that appropriation of $1 million to the Division of Water Resources of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to support the Nevada State Engineer and the Nevada Water Initiative. The next recommendation passed by the subcommittee was to propose legislation to authorize a Board of County Commissioners to establish a groundwater board. And the last recommendation was a tribal consultation, specifically to propose legislation to amend Title 26 of NRS related to public lands to add language that prioritizes tribal expertise and knowledge to public lands. That concludes the recommendations from the subcommittee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinisbeck. And at this point, what I would like to do is move forward first with the bills that passed unanimously, both the bill drafts and the two letters that passed unanimously this morning from the subcommittee as a vote, which would include looking at the work session document from earlier today, A, 2, and 3, which are now combined. So that would be one bill, A4, B5, B6, B7, B8, and then our new number 9, which would be the tribal bill that was discussed regarding expertise and recommendations. Do we have any objections to putting all of those forward as one? Okay. I'm seeing nods and thumbs up, so I think we're okay there. So committee members, are there any questions regarding recommendations? And I'm just going to say 2 through 9 from the Subcommittee on Public Lands. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve recommendations 2 through 9 of the work sessions document of the Subcommittee on Public Lands.
So moved.
Thank you so much. And that was Senator Scheibel, who is chair of the Subcommittee of Public Lands. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from our vice chair, Anderson. Is there any discussion before we move forward to a vote? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Wonderful, that motion passes. So with that, we will move forward with recommendations 2 and 3, which were combined, number 4, B5, 6, 7, 8, and our new tribal recommendation, which came in as 9. with that, we are going to discuss item number A1. I believe there was some dissent on that one this morning, and that was, again, A1 from this morning's Subcommittee of Public Lands work session, requesting the drafting of a bill that revises various provisions of water law that would encourage water conservation, including revision of NRS 533.024, 533.0241, and as well as a conservation plan, excluding water conserved from a conservation plan from the abandonment provisions of NRS 533.060 and 534.090. I would remind the committee that this is moving forward with BDR recommendations, and by no means is this moving forward with a bill itself, I am certain there will be robust conversation during the session. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve recommendation A1 that we just discussed from the work session of the Subcommittee of Public Lands.
So moved.
Thank you so much. From Chair Scheibel from the Subcommittee on Public Lands. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. We have a second from Vice Chair Anderson. Any discussion on the motion before we vote? Okay. We'll start with Senator Gokachia.
I appreciate the Assemblyman deferring to me, but he would have been just as good. Again, we all know we have to address water and water conservation, but in this particular bill, it's so encompassing. I was one of the opposing votes. I'd like to see some language before I really wanted to vote in favor of bringing a bill like that forward, and some of the ramifications that were coming out that could come out of a bill like that. So that was why I opposed it. Again, we're going to have to conserve water. We recognize that, but some of the stuff was going to be pretty far-reaching, I'm afraid. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. And Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I want to echo the Senator's comments, but then also add, I think this issue, the concept of creating water conservation as an appropriate, an ability to appropriate that water for that purpose is so different from the way we've been treating water law to date that I just don't think the discussions have matured far enough to be able to put together a BDR that will meaningfully address the issue. So I just think it's too soon to do this. So.
Okay, thank you, Assemblyman. Vice Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. And I hear what my colleagues are saying from the subcommittee, but I'd just like to reiterate that I just think it's really important also that we work together on bringing forward language during the drafting and also during the legislative process. So even if they're no longer here, 72 days, that we would still be able to call individuals and ask for advice as well as help, so that this way we can at least get the conversation started, understanding that it's not going to solve it, but we have to get this conversation started, and this is just one step in doing so.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. I think I would echo my colleague's statement. I think that we all agree that conservation is essential. I would argue that this is not official language. We're not approving a bill. I believe that this is starting a conversation, and I think that it's important that we start this and that we work together with stakeholders and with each other and we get the language correct. But I think it's important that we start here so that we can have that conversation and we can be working on it throughout the next session, because I don't think our state is getting in any better position water-wise if we wait. And so I think that we need to get started as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any further discussion from the committee before taking a vote? Okay, Assemblyman.
Just want to put on the record that appreciate everyone's thoughts on this. I don't think we should be starting a conversation during a legislative session. I think we need to be hashing out these issues in an interim, in a more collaborative process. I think trying to do that during session, we won't actually get anything done. And I don't think that's a good use of time.
Thank you so much. And I would say that the beauty of having this discussion now is that those conversations don't need to wait to the legislative session. We can start having those conversations now. And I would especially encourage Senator Goa-Kachia, who I think so many people in the room have said how much they'll miss his knowledge of water and his knowledge of natural resources around the state. So I would encourage Senator Goa-Kachia, Assemblyman DeLong, to start those conversations now and share feedback that you'd like to see if this does end up passing. So any further discussion? Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Chair Pazina. I won't be here in the next legislative session, but I just did want to get on the record that I do think that there are times where it's completely necessary to start those conversations during the legislative session. As someone, I don't have quite the tenure that Senator Goa-Kachia has, but I have done 4 sessions, and I know that there are times where you start with a process and you don't quite get there by the end, but at least those discussions have been made and you can work again. So we are the driest state in the nation, and I think this bill is a good jumping off point. So I will be a yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. And I believe Assemblyman Gurr. Oh, okay. All right. Any further comments before we move to a vote? And I really appreciate all the discussion. And that's one of the things I love about work sessions, really getting to have an open discussion. With that said, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for your votes. That said, the motion does pass. So that closes out our voting on the work session from the Subcommittee on Public Lands. And I will hand it over again to Mr. Stinisbeck to get us going on our next work session.
The next recommendations in the work session pertain to agriculture, and under B, it's my understanding that the chair would like me to go through both of those recommendations, so I will do so. The first, B2, is to send a letter to the governor and director of the State Department of Agriculture expressing support for the Home Feeds Nevada Agricultural Food Purchasing Program. This recommendation is based on testimony made during the February 29th meeting. The next recommendation under agriculture is B3, which requests the drafting of a bill to create a healthy soils initiative, including the creation of a soil health advisory board run through the conservation districts. This recommendation was made by Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch based on testimony made during the February 29th meeting, and was also recommended by Mr. Martin, president of Nevada Association of Conservation Districts, and Kelly Kelly. You can see also attachments B3 to the work session document. There was also public comment made, obviously, on this, and public comment through a letter, which is uploaded to the website from Lincoln County Conservation Districts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stinisbeck. And with that, I'd like to move us one topic at a time as you look through the agenda. So we're only going to look at voting on agricultural bills at this time and not moving any further past that. Is everyone, and I'm going to look around to the committee again to see if there's, okay, great. If we're okay with that, so perfect. With that said, committee, are there any questions regarding B2 and B3 from the work session document? Okay, wonderful. I will entertain a motion to approve both B2 and B3 on the work session document, on the work session document for our Committee on Natural Resources.
So moved.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. Do we have a second?
Second.
Senator Goa-Kachia with the second. Thank you so much. Any discussion on B2 or B3 from the Natural Resources work session document before we proceed? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. All right. Thank you so much. With that, the motion passes for B2 and B3. And we thank everyone on the committee, and we will ask Mr. Sinisbeck to move into mining for C4.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinsbeck. C4 is to send a letter to the Department of Interior urging the Secretary of Interior to enact an administrative withdrawal of public lands in the Amargosa Valley from new mining for a temporary period of 20 years. This was recommended by Assemblywoman Laura Hatch and also by Joanna Moen with the Nature Conservancy and Laura Sato with the Nature Conservancy and Mason Bowl with the Amargosa Conservancy. You can see additional information in attachment C4. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stinisbeck. So with that, we only have the one proposal for mining, so we're not combining anything together. So with that, I'd like to ask the committee members if there are any questions. Okay, Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I have one or two questions for the sponsors of this or the people who recommended it. If they could come up, that would be appreciated. I wanted to, in developing this proposal, were KMI, Zeolite, or Lawast involved in any of your discussions with regards to the development of this?
Thank you, Assemblyman. Mason Vale, MASONVOEHL. Yes, we actually have had several conversations with Lawast executives on this issue to ensure that they have all the briefing materials and a very full understanding that a new withdrawal of this nature is subject to valid existing rights.
Did you have any discussions with KMI, Zeolite?
Mason Vale, no, we have not had direct conversations with KMI Zeolite at this time.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Assemblyman, did you have any more questions? Okay. Do we have any other questions from the committee regarding this one? Okay. Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion to approve recommendation C4 from the Natural Resources Joint Committee.
So moved.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Is there a second? Second. Thank you so much, Senator Scheibel. Is there any discussion on the motion before we vote? Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you for accommodating me, Chair. I'm concerned anytime we're thinking about withdrawing lands in the state from multiple use. We already have millions of acres that have been withdrawn from multiple use. And the only way I would consider it's appropriate to withdraw more land is if we release some land that is currently withdrawn from multiple use. I think we need as a state to encourage multiple use of our lands, which are mostly managed by the BLM. So I am not in favor of this because of the withdrawal issue.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And I would remind the committee as well that this is a letter and not a BDR, so it will not be a resolution or a change in statute. It would be a letter. With that said, is there any further discussion? Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also are very concerned about any time we start asking for administrative withdrawals of public lands. However, I do represent this area, and I have been, I know it is super sensitive, and so we're, again, a letter, it's, at least we're going to take in, it'll probably take 20 years before they ever get it looked at anyway, but I am going to support it because, again, I got supporting my constituents down there, and just because it's a sensitive area, I typically would not be in favor of any administrative land withdrawal, but this is a unique case, so I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Assemblyman Gurr, did you have a comment? Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Normally, I'd be in the same boat with Pete to not withdraw, along with Assemblyman DeLong. But again, it's an area that I represent also, and it is a very sensitive area. I've not been on the ground there, but I've seen pictures. I've had conversations with people who represent them. And it is a sensitive, localized issue. I think it's a little broad by taking the whole Amargosa Valley out, but like Pete says, or Senator Gokachia, I'm sorry, it's going to be a long time before the feds ever get around to really addressing the issue, I'm afraid. So right now, I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman. Do we have any other comments before we move forward? Okay, thank you so much. With that, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, thank you so much. The motion passes. And with that, we will hand this back over to Mr. Stinisbeck to review outdoor recreation.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jens Stinisbeck. Outdoor Recreation D5 requests the drafting of a bill to create a Transit to Trails task force that is charged with identifying and securing funding for public transit that runs to trailheads and identifying high priority areas for a potential future Transit to Trails program. This was recommended by Olivia Tanger with the Sierra Club, and you can also see attachments to the work session document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stinisbeck. And thank you, Ms. Tanager, for coming down in case there's any questions. So with that said, committee members, do we have any questions? Senator Gokachia?
I hope they consider public transit to the top of the rubies.
I too would like to see that, Senator Gokachia, and Olivia Tanager for the record.
I believe our vice chair has a comment as well.
Mine's not a question, it's more of a comment that I so appreciate this being brought forward, especially when we think about our Tahoe area in particular. I recognize that the people from the northern area, we hear about it often, but this is something that we are desperate for, so thank you so much for bringing this forward. And with that, are you ready for a motion? If I may, I'd like to motion support of D5.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you so much. We have a second from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. Any discussion before we vote? Other than in regards to the Ruby Mountains. Okay, with that, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. All right, wonderful. The motion passes unanimously. And with that, we will turn it back over to Mr. Stinisbeck in regards to water, something we have quite the scarcity of here in Nevada.
E6 water. The first recommendation on the water is request the drafting of a bill revising NRS 533.0243 to extend the time limit of a temporary conversion of agricultural water rights for wildlife purposes or to improve the quality or flow of water from 3 to 10 years. This recommendation was made by Mr. Ornick with the Great Basin Water Network during the May 10th meeting. And unfortunately, Mr. Ornick is not available today. And the next recommendation under water is E7, which requests the drafting of a bill based on Senate Bill 99 from the 2023 session that appropriates $600,000 per year for each year of the 2025-2027 biennium from the State General Fund to the DRI to support the Nevada State Cloud Seeding Program. This was recommended by Ms. Bauer with the DRI and Mr. Fontaine with the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority. You can see attachment E7 for that one. And E8 is to request the drafting of a bill that revises various provisions of water law. This includes, but is not limited to, in addition to Chapter 445A of NRS, to encourage and promote water reuse as a policy of the state, in addition to NRS 445A.520 related to standards of water quality that authorize the State Environment Commission to consider the establishment of a water quality standard variance pursuant to federal law, which meets certain criteria, defining eligible property owner in Chapter 439 of NRS for purposes of a District Board of Health Voluntary Finance Assistance Program to pay for costs related to abandoning existing septic system served by a municipal water system to connect to community sewage, and the establishment of an account for retiring water rights in the State General Fund and the Nevada Voluntary Water Rights Retirement Program, and expires the program on June 30th, 2035. This was recommended by Mr. Chaudong with the Las Vegas Valley Water District. You can see attachment E8 for bill language and support letter signed by various stakeholders. The next recommendation on the water is E9, which requests the drafting of a bill based on the amended version of Senate Bill 176 from the 2023 legislative session, excluding the sections creating the account for purchasing and retiring water rights and the appropriate appropriation from the State General Fund to the account. The bill would create the Nevada Conservation and Recreation Program, consisting of the Nevada Water Buyback Initiative and a grant program, and establish an advisory committee for the initiative. This was recommended both by Chair Pezina, Senator Goicoechea, and also recommended by Ms. Moen with the Nature Conservancy, Ms. Sato with the Nature Conservancy. You can see attachment E9 for the bill language from 2023, in addition to information provided by the Nature Conservancy on C4. And that concludes the recommendations under water. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. So that was quite the robust discussion we just had in regards to those water bills. So with that said, what I'd like to do before we start discussion is to see if it's okay with the committee if we take all of those votes at once for all of those water bills that we just discussed, which would have been everything under water, E6, E7, E8, and E9, so all four. Is any comments from the committee? Any challenges with that? Okay. Great. Okay, so with that, I will open it up to any questions on E6, E7, E8, and E9. Senator Goicoechea?
This is more of a comment, and I can definitely support all the bills, but I guess if we get short of bill drafts when we get towards the end, my least favorite is 6, and my concern with that is, it looks like the request is going to be from 3 to 10 years. And I'm very apprehensive about moving beyond the 5 years, which is what the law requires for maintaining your water rights. So I guess that's one thing. So that, just looking at it, if one's got to fall off, that's where I'd like to see fall off.
Thank you so much, Senator. As luck would have it, we do actually have the appropriate number of bill drafts between the subcommittee and the larger committee, so we can move forward with everything without having to make a priority listing. So we're very fortunate in that case. The chair of Subcommittee of Public Lands and I made sure prior to that we would be in agreement. Vice Chair.
Thank you. So although looking through these, and again, these are in idea form at this time, and I recognize that, is there a possibility that some of these bills might be dealing with very similar issues and or even having some of the same language based upon just the different things? There seems to be some overarching items, and is that okay to do that, I guess?
Legal, would you like to answer that one?
Erin Sturdivant, Legislative Council Bureau. The committee could recommend as many bills as they want on the same subject, making different or the same changes. It's not a problem from a legal or drafting perspective.
Thank you so much, and just wanted to clarify that to make sure that it was okay to do that.
Thank you so much. I had this conversation with Ms. Sturdivant, but I thought she would answer it a lot better and more concisely than I would here, with a law degree to back her up. Any other comments from, or I should say questions from the committee in regards to the water bills? Assemblyman LaRue Hatch?
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I actually had a similar question. Just I know on items 8 and 9, they're both talking about the water rights retirement. So are we going to have to square those during session to make sure they're matching, or only pass one? Is that just something we'll have to deal with as we get closer?
Discussions have been had with stakeholders of both bills, and I think we're in agreement that on the importance of water rights retirement, and we will make sure that we're square. And those conversations, of course, will be ongoing as well. Thank you. Good question. They've all been good questions and good comments. Do we have any other questions coming in? Okay. With that said, seeing no more questions right now, I'll entertain a motion to approve recommendations E6, E7, E8, and E9 from the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources work session documents.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Senator Scheibel. Any further discussion on the motion before we take a vote? Okay. With that, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, say nay. All right, look at that. Unanimous passage for E6, E7, E8, and E9. We are just rolling along. And that brings us to wildfire, which has certainly been a huge topic of discussion in Northern Nevada lately. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Stinisbeck.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinsbeck. The next two sets of recommendations are F10, which is to send a letter to the governor encouraging state general fund appropriation to support the continued work of the Nevada Shared Stewardship Agreement. This recommendation is based on testimony by Ms. Gabor with the U.S. Forest Service during the May 10th meeting, and also recommended by the directors of DCNR, the State Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Wildlife. You can also see attachment F10 for that and for background information on it. The next one is F11, which requests the drafting of a bill authorizing the governor of Nevada and the Nevada Division of Forestry to enter into certain fire compacts. This was recommended by State Forest and Fire Warden Casey Casey during the May 10th meeting, and you can also see attachment F11 for back information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stinisbeck. And I'd also like to point out, before we get into questions and comments, that please notice that F10 is a letter and is not a BDR. It's not a resolution. It's not requesting a bill draft or change in statute. It is a letter to the governor, encouraging the continuation of the work on the Nevada Shared Stewardship Agreement. With that, committee, are there any questions in regards to these items, F10 and F11? All right, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate, in particular, F11, as we are going into the fire season and it's getting so much earlier. And I know that throughout our state, as Senator Gocochea has brought forward many times, it's a large state. There's not many areas that our firefighters are able to meet. And so any sort of help we can get is always incredibly important. So having these certain fire compacts, as discussed by Ms. Casey last in May, would be incredibly helpful for our whole state. So just wanted to make that little plug.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other comments or questions before we move forward? Okay, look at that. I will take a motion to approve recommendations F10 and F11.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. A second.
Second.
Thank you so much, Senator Scheibel. And with that, is there any other discussion on the motion before we vote? Senator Scheibel.
I was actually going to say something very similar to Assemblywoman Anderson. I think that F11 is incredibly important. I'm really glad that we discussed this during the interim and that it made it to our final determination. So thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Seeing no further comment, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing silence, that happily means that we have unanimously passed the motion for F10 and F11 on wildfires, and that moves us to the last item on our work session document for Mr. Stinisbeck in regards to wildlife, proposal G12.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinsbeck, G12 is to request the drafting of a bill that appropriates $5 million from the State General Fund into a wildlife crossing account to support the construction of new wildlife crossings in Nevada. This was recommended by Mr. Carrero with the Pew Charitable Trust and Mr. Davis with Opinion Public Affairs representing the Pew Charitable Trust during the June 4 meeting. There's also an attachment under G12. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stinisbeck. Do we have any questions? Okay, Assemblyman Gurr.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's a comment in support of this. It's terribly important. I believe in Elko County we have at least three crossings, and they have saved human lives, they've saved wildlife lives, deer, elk, and so forth. The moose haven't gotten in the way yet, but boy, if you ever hit a moose, it's worse than hitting a horse. So I'm really 100% behind this, and I don't know if $5 million's enough, but we really need to have this passed and keep the program going throughout Nevada, wherever you have a problem with animals crossing roads. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman. Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And of course, I met with the sponsors on this too, and we had the same discussion. And it's fine to talk about wildlife crossings, but again, they aren't effective until you have highway fencing, and it has to be wildlife fence. I mean, if you build a crossing and they don't have to cross the road, but they can jump a 4-wire fence, and that's what's happening. So I just want to remind the committee and everyone that in the end, you've got to make those highways to where they can't cross them, so they use the crossing.
Thank you, Senator. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Mine is a question when I take a look at F10 with the letter to the governor. Just wondering if in addition to drafting of that bill, there's a way for us to possibly amend this to also ask for the governor to consider to put it into his budget for next time. So that's why we can be prepared just in case, but ask for a letter as well as the drafting of the bill. So that way when the governor's creating his budget, it is also made into a priority coming from our committee, if that is a possibility.
So on G12, you would like to, in addition to the drafting of the bill for the appropriation, also reach out to the governor with a letter request for continued appropriations, which may include fencing. I just want to make sure I understand, and thank you.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Basically asking for the governor, and it's up to you, the wording that you would like to use, but asking the governor to also include an appropriation to have that state general fund of the wildlife crossing account to support the construction of new wildlife crossings in Nevada. So, and as chair of this committee, that would be your decision as to what exactly that money would go towards. I would trust you to make that decision. But this way, it would be wonderful if we were to have the governor to also show right away that he supports this idea, as opposed to trying to amend it into the budget after his budget has been proposed.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure I understood, since that would change the vote on G12, just to add additional verbiage. Senator Gocochea.
I would also ask the vice chair then if she would consider in that letter construction of new wildlife crossings, wildlife fencing as well. Include those, because I feel very strongly they have to be hand in hand. I can build all the bridges in the world, but if they don't have to use it, they won't.
That totally makes sense to me. I think that's a very wise addition as the chair sees fit.
Thank you, Assemblyman Gurr.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Senator Gocochea's comments, when they first built the overpasses on 93, they didn't fence far enough down, and yes, it was a mess. But since then, they have miles and miles of fence, so I would just ask that you include fencing if we have to be specific in the bill, that it includes the fencing, so you don't have to come in and put in 20 miles of fence behind it. But the way they're fenced now, and especially on the Pequops and on top of HD Summit, it is an amazing process that's happened up there. I've driven that since I was a little kid. Well, not me driving personally, but over those mountains time and time again, and there would be springs where they're crossing back where you count 25, 30, 40 head of dead deer on the Pequops. So yeah, the fencing has really helped. If we need underpasses, they work too. They've proven that in Utah. So whatever we need to do to make the highways safer for both wildlife and humans is a great plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my understanding is our plan is for G12, two things. One is request the drafting of a bill for a $5 million appropriation from the state general fund into the wildlife crossings account to support the construction of new wildlife crossings in Nevada, and at the same time include a letter to the governor asking for future appropriations moving forward with appropriations for both the crossings and the fencing for wildlife. Okay. All right. Good. Making sure we're on the same page. Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. So I support this. I agree with this change, but I see Mr. Davis is ready for questions, and so I do have one for him, if that's okay. I was wondering if the governor has been approached and if this is already in discussion to include in his budget, and where we stand on that process.
Mr. Davis is approaching.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kyle Davis, on behalf of the Pew Charitable Trust, through you to Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. We certainly have had conversations with the governor's office about this issue. As for whether it's being included in their budget or not, I don't know, and certainly wouldn't want to speak for the governor's office.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any further questions before we move forward with a motion for now this combined appropriation request and letter to the governor's office? Sorry. All right. May we please have a motion for approval of G12?
So moved.
Thank you so much, Senator Scheibel.
Second.
And a second from our vice chair. All right. Please let the record show, Mr. Stinisbeck and Mr. Devant, as we submit this bill draft request for G12, that it has added to it now a letter to the governor, including a request for appropriation moving forward that would assist in both crossings and fencing to protect wildlife and humans. All right. Wonderful. Well, it seems like we have made it through. Oh, we haven't made it through because we haven't voted yet. And we also haven't had discussion on the motion. So, discussion on the motion. All right. Almost there. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Any opposed, nay. All right. The motion passes unanimously, which makes me very happy. And thank you so much for the wonderful suggestions and feedback that have led to a change in this particular item on the work session agenda. With that said, I believe this moves us into public comment again, item 5 on our agenda. So I would ask, please come forward in Carson City and Las Vegas and over the phones if you'd like to make public comment.
Good afternoon, Robin Orloff, O-R-L-O-F-F. This has been a really interesting process for me. It's all new with the bills, and I appreciate being here. I'm thrilled that you voted for to protect the Amargosa River. I mean, that's a really important area for me, and I think to the desert. Water in the desert is so very important. And my husband and I have explored it from Beatty through there's a conservation easement right next to Beatty protecting it. And then through Ash Meadow and Shoshone, Tacopa, China Basin, Saratoga Springs and Dunes, and all the way to Death Valley. It's a really special resource for our state. And I also want to thank you very much for adding the fencing to the bill that that's so important. And thank you very, very much for, when I came out here from back east, I mean, everything was free grazing. And a very close friend of mine actually died when a car hit a deer coming the other direction, and the deer hit her windshield. And it was a terrible many years for that. So I appreciate your consideration and everything you do here for our state, and have a safe trip home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking part in so many of the public comments at our meetings. We always enjoy hearing from you. And with that,
thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jana Moan, for the record, from the Nature Conservancy, and I just wanted to take a minute to also recognize and say thank you to Senator Goicoechea for his long-term service and for his commitment to protecting water resources in this state.
thank you so much. We will induce a blush by the end of this meeting. Seeing no one else in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anyone on the phones?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now. Chair, you have no one wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you so much. And that will close us out of our final public comment of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources. You know, I think all of us here have really shared our thoughts on Senator Gokachia and his many years of service in the legislature and the natural resources family. 22 years serving, and this is his last session and his last special session, though we hope not the last time that we hear his voice sharing and working and forwarding his commitment on water bills. He'll be missed, I think, by the entire body, definitely by those of us on the Natural Resources Committee. He served his community as a Eureka County Commissioner for 16 years prior to his election to the Assembly, and we've just really benefited from his knowledge and kindness in the Senate and on this committee. So again, I'd like to lead a round of applause for Senator Gokachia's service.
Be careful what you wish for. There are bad pennies. Thank you.
I somehow doubt this will be the last time we see you at a natural resources meeting, and we would have it no other way. I'd also really like to share a thank you to everyone who served on this committee in the interim, because I know how much time it takes, the commitment it takes to move forward the policies that we did here at this meeting today between the Subcommittee on Public Lands. And thank you so much, Chair Scheibel, for your work on that, and for all the members who have been part of both committees. I'd like to thank everyone who's been part of this committee so much. It's been such a wonderful experience. Thank you so much to the hard-working staff. I don't know what we would do without the Legislative Council Bureau staff. Mr. Stinisbeck, Ms. Perrott, Ms. Sturdivant, everyone, Ms. Kramer, who's just made it such a pleasure. Our Broadcast and Production Services Department, our IT staff, thank you so much to everyone, and to all of you who come to these meetings and who advocate so passionately on behalf of the issues we care about. We wouldn't have these meetings without you and without the issues that you bring forward to us. So thank you so much. And with that, Senator, would you like to adjourn us?
Just one quick comment. I also want to recognize staff. They're very good. They prepare a book for me because I'm so techy, and I can't, and not just this committee, but every committee. So I really appreciate it, and thank you, staff. And again, if you want me to adjourn, we are adjourned. I'm gone. Thank you.